The following clip is exclusive content from the university. Access over 300 videos and 26 courses with advanced metaphysics on demand. Jump in live chats with Savan and the rest of the tribe. New materials are available monthly along with guides and regimens. Subscribe today and save $25 off your first month membership. Links are in the descriptions. Subscribe to Secret Energy TV or this channel for future show notifications. Wholeness.
There's a real power in understanding how to balance energy. And I was just listening to it the other day. A Shaolin monk was explaining the whole principles behind why you don't get too excited and why you don't get upset, and how, you know, when you're getting upset is definitely drawing you into something to continue to happen. And then when you're getting too excited, it's sometimes even removing what is supposed to make you happy. And this is just energy management. And it's very interesting to look at life to have to maintain this balance. You would just think it would be something that happens, like it would be like a preference, since we would want to be there. But this process that we're actually in called life, it's not as simple, right? It's challenged us in so many ways. Like, just imagine we got here, we didn't really have a backstory, and now we have to do the greatest things. But the interesting thing is that we actually know what those things are. We have an internal compass that says, hey, this is what's really going to be beneficial for my growth. We have like a sense of what is great for us, and then we start going in that direction. And I want to, make sure that we all understand that we have these faculties and we're training these faculties. I also wanted to just let everybody know, like, there's all the formalities and the protocols that we can go through. We could breathe, we can, do so many things. And I encourage us all to breathe in every single moment. Also to bring yourself here, because the power of the moment is so special that not too many people have the opportunity to share in that space. It becomes even less and less sometimes as it gets more and more refined. That's why they always say sometimes that eagles fly alone. It's just because how many birds can really fly that high. So just imagine that even when we come into these spaces, you can look at even some of the numbers. There are actually around 400 ambassadors. There's about 58 of them here, 68 of them. So when it's time for us to even re-engage and re-enlighten ambassadors, because they've been able to accomplish so many different things inside of the space of secret energy and the space of themselves, but it's always, so what do I do next? And that's the thing about the story, is that, we live the story every day, and it's very important for us to just be completely not only in the moment, but also being out of any character. And I'm going to actually explain that a little bit more, because the more that I can get out of character, the more useful that I can be to you and also myself. Because, of course, as you start getting into this age range, you're not trying to waste time. You want to have the most clearest and purest experiences. Now, it's very interesting, because I've seen some in life that live that experience every day. I just feel like when I'm watching them, that when I have the opportunity, that they are just being them. And there's, for many of us that cannot be ourselves, we sit back and admire that. And when I say cannot be ourselves, I'll say that we at times have been able to even identify who we really are, and then who we have to be every day, and how we even have a narrative going on in our minds about if it was the way we wanted it, or if we could turn up everything that we truly are. But we've actually had to take a step back and realize even that is, maybe a bit overkill on the ego, and it's better to just see how all that can be useful to you rather than everything around you, right? And that brings you into the understanding. And so I wanted to say welcome to the understanding as we enter this 44th of the 22. This to me just signifies that the alignment and the precision of this door that is freely able to be walked through to a bridge in itself that allows you to really, really gain the connection with yourself. This is the alignment of those portals. And as with anything, we get the opportunity to, based on how we're calibrated, how our alchemical vessel is put together, decide what comes through that door. And that's why even just being in this space, I know everyone that I'm around, because I know who I am. And that's why I always tread cautiously with what I say and what I do around tribe, because there's a great responsibility and there's a great work for real being or happening here, especially with a lot of the younger souls that are also in this space, gaining the strength that they need to get to go and do in existence what they're going to do. And this is the fertile ground for them. So I want to also give thanks to all the pillars in the space that also allow them to feel comfortable with being in the space. And so when you see that multi-splendid thing, the different colors, the different personalities, someone will see themselves and then be like, okay, well, shoot, if he's here or she's here, then, you know, I feel right in place. And that's important, because what we're doing, especially right now, it doesn't take everybody. It just takes us. Like what you're working to accomplish, it doesn't take everybody. It just takes you. And so these are the tools and these are dynamics. So first, I wanted to make sure that, you know, before we launched off, so hopefully you've taken your breaths, you've come into the space more, and you've left everywhere that you were, and you've brought yourself here. And that means even the dream last night, the crazy situation that may have happened before you got here, the super exciting thing that you can't wait to do when you leave, the video that you're going to get back to, the book that you're going to write, all that stuff, you can coalesce that into this moment, into the space, because it's going to assist all of that. Now, as you know, there's a layout to the digest, or which it's not a digest anymore. It's just like the sovereignty expose. That's what I'm calling it right now. So the layout is I come in, I'm supposed to only be here for tops 45 minutes. And then, you know, heavy duty tough work comes after that, meaning that, you know, those that are going to come forth, which is my brother Terrence and my brother Chris, you know, we never know. Sean may come in, Jeanette may come in. We're not sure what's going to happen here. But when that starts happening, you know, that's for me, that's the time that I get the opportunity to lay back and just really absorb. So that's the layout. I'm going to come in and say what I got to say, and then we're going to do that. I also wanted to do a little disclaimer here and let everybody know, you know, this is from the most clearest level, professional legal and medical advice is something that, you know, from time to time, you may need to not omit. Like there is a real legal structure out there. There is a real medical system. You get a super headache. Sometimes you cut your arm open. You know, if you're over there trying to put what do they call it, tea tree oil in there, because that's what you're reading on the internet. You probably should have went with some hydrogen peroxide. But I'm just saying that there's a certain level of medical professionality that someone needs to have when diagnosing. And so I want to make it very clear here that all the stuff that we talk about is our opinion, and we're just giving you advice based on our experience, but we don't claim any of those roles. The second thing is that if you're prone to depression, or third thing here, if you're prone to depression, you may need to take a step back and really, really analyze how far you've gone into even the materials that have been presented so far. Have you gone through semester 1, semester 2? These are classics because they lay out a step-by-step principle that gives you a good foundation of what you could be dealing with. So it's like a core dictionary of the terminology and the modes that you will experience within this space. And so I want to make sure I say that, because I know there are a few that this is their first time joining Tribe Vibes. And this also, part of Tribe Vibes is a little bit different than normal Tribe Vibes, and you'll understand that as we go along. I also wanted to mention that this is a depth level transmission, that everything that we're here talking about is about sovereignty, which is probably why at this stage there's 66 of us in the vessel. And these are depth level transmissions are as they are because there are not many sovereigns for a reason. It is the highest stage to claim here on the planetary space. There is knowledge of being beyond sovereign, but I would say, crawl before you walk. Some people just want to grab to the highest thing, and it's like you could cheat yourself out of a necessary step to be aware where you would even be going if you make it there, and I trust that you will. Also, I will say that for the record, I'm always looking into the greater levels and expansions of consciousness of where we all progress even into the continuous unity field, which I for sure know exists somewhere in the dream plane. And with the abilities there that, man, if even one of us make it, that we would think about the rest of us before we glide off and be like, should I take them with me? So, I always, that's the ace in the glove case, meaning that, just in case you don't figure it out, I'm sure somebody here will, and I'm sure they'll be so bossed up on the hyperdimensional level that they probably will come get us all. We would hope that would be me when I'm just saying, spread it out a little bit. The next thing is that I wanted to make sure that everybody understands that sovereignty, spiritual sovereignty is always the first priority. Like, if you're still playing with the gods and haven't realized the one inside of yourself, it's very important to understand just energy leaking. And so when you're experiencing certain things on the reality and you're trying everything, you're drinking up Sheila or eating up Sheila Jit and everything, and nothing's working, but you still got the Virgin Mary hanging around, like you still may need to understand like how that fits in your mind. I'm not saying that it's nothing wrong with Virgin Mary at all to understand what it truly is, but are you still seeing it as something different because it's casted in a mold that may look like something different? And we're going to learn a little bit about that tonight. But I just want to say for the record that this is a spiritual thing that should be done first. And then now where we're at is we're in the fine details. But they say the devil's in the details indeed. Sovereignty also is a mindset. Just remembering that we come into this space with the need to fortify our consciousness, because if you cannot project what you are, then you need to sit in with elders and learn how to do that. Because that is sometimes something that you have to train yourself to do, to align what you're saying with your heart and your mind, to start to just align things. Also, this process of sovereignty does bring about what some call ego death. And it's just because what you start realizing is that you'll be able to really identify somewhat of a shadow or crust of you that something is trying to give life to, but it's more of like a zombie. And that's kind of what the formation of the kind of corporations that they create. They're very hollow, and they themselves energetically are not functioning on real energy. It's more of like a vacuum. This could be like a ghost or a phantom. So what I'm saying is that the construct that they have put together, that they try to shroud who we truly are with, is of that nature. And when it's time for that thing to die, sometimes some associate themselves with it, and that's what creates ego death. And there's still for sure brighter days on the other side, but it's just something to notate. So if you start going through that experience, you can say, oh, wow, okay, yeah, that's right. There was supposed to be a part of me that is kind of dying. That's why I'm feeling this confliction. And you can make the proper adjustments, balance yourself out, and we all good. And that's also how we're treating this vessel, is to understand that, man, I saw this little Shaolin monk, again, the little baby monk. He was sitting with the splits on top of a log, holding another log on his head. Like, I'm just saying, like, the level of discipline that a human being can be put through is excellent. So obviously you're not doing that right now. You're not busting the splits on the top of a log, carrying a thing for the master. So that means that most of this stuff, you got it. You can get this accomplished, and that you have the ability to go right in on yourself and make some adjustments without necessarily needing to, go through great levels of training. Although I know we all would. If we could get a master to train us to do that, we may go on with that for a few months at least. So just remember that the opportunity is priceless. What are we here for anyway? Are we here to just be going to the cradle to the grave? I think not. So that means that having opportunity to become a sovereign and even know it, to get it to run through your veins and through your being, it's a hell of an opportunity, and I would take it. So I'm watching this Star Wars Andor, okay? And this is a better storyline than Mandalorian for sure. Now, somebody is really writing this, and you're watching this guy, Diego Luna, go right through his initiation. He comes through in a Tesseract, or what's called a trapezoid. They got a Joker running through the scene, and there's just, every single piece of the symbolism that's necessary to know, okay, this is their new guy. But as I'm watching this storyline, because the story's got to be, at this stage, we're in 2022, so the story must be great. something else kind of happens, and I get onto this road in my own mind of, what if we are looking for a home that for infinity, almost for thousands of years, as individuals have been looking for a space that we can settle into, that space and feel like in our infinite journey that I've found a home. And what if this comes about because when you look at the origins and the story of how we arrived on the planet is that we came here, not that we were here already. And, this would take us to have to still undo the buttoning of some of our hyperdimensional theories, like how things are put together. But this is just the power of story and just being able to come into what would seem like the rudimentary components of reality. But see, the rudimentary components of reality humble these master teachings or whatever, because if it still exists, you're supposed to be able to explain it in even the most simplest way, in the most simplest things, because it should be the very fabric of everything. And so the simplest thing to me is that when you look around you and you see the space that you're in and you feel into your consciousness and your mind, etc., do you feel like you're at home yet? Or do you still feel like that you have more to go in your journey? And the reason is because you may go and explore, and you may choose to explore later, but you explore from a home, right? Like a person who just continues to go is like a nomad, right? So you have no home, versus explorer has like a base, right? Like a actual concentrated space where their energy and their essence and the things that belong to them, those are all in that space and they're contained within that unit, right? So I said, well, Seven, for this to be because sometimes I just, I love to start off dumb with myself when I had these conversations. I said, well, if this is going to be anywhere near plausible, this means that you would need to have come from another planet. So can you explain to me these different variables of human beings and what planets they came from? I said, well, certainly. It would be Sirius, or the Syrians and the Orions. And with these two, I got everybody. Let's just make it very rudimentary. I got the white folks and the black folks, and I got everybody in between. Why? Because in Syria, with the Syrians and the Osirian and the Sibyls and the Nomo, I got all that covered. And the Jackal, what happened? What is the story from the people who think that they're from that space and that's resonating with them? What happened? It tells you in the experiment, there was one that decoupled. All the other ones, they came out well, but that one that decoupled became the narrative of the whole story, because it was now about bringing that thing up to the same level where everything else was, and that was known as the Jackal. And this Jackal is in its way a dog. It's actually a Setian. And it became like an anti-God. It's why God backwards is dog. And then the story goes on from there. It goes to Canaan. And that's all of the Hamite, Chemite, all that, right? And so we got that. Then in Orion, as they say, their color of their eyes is the only symbol of where they're from. Either it's the sky or it's the ocean. And this, they say, those who have the blue eyes, right? And so this is the Orion mystery, which gets into a whole nother segment of just kind of like how they began that new Lord of the Rings with the high elven kings and this pure blood and all of these different levels of the lore, and then how it all popped off when somebody decided that they wanted to dip into some more of the universal Milky Way chocolate. And that's pretty much the story. And to this day, those are the characters in the game. And that's all of them. And they come from another space. There's more, of course. I could get into Taurus. I can get into drama. I could go into all of these different constellations. But these two seem to be, to me, the Alpha and the Omega, right? And then all the rest of the story. This is the head of the serpent and the tail of the serpent. And then all the stories will just get wrapped up into them because they're so dominant in the reality, they constantly continue to bring in their energy in their reality versus the smaller stars. Let's say it like that, right? Like when we get to the level to where we're seeing the smaller things as precious, the things that there's so little of, we already do. We know the things that are so little are the most rarest, but they're also the most quiet. They're also the most unknown. Like you would almost like never find them, these things. It just comes along with the character. You would really have to be looking for it. So I want everyone to understand here is that the big thing, first of all, is that it's the shield of unity. And, and I shiver in speaking of it because it's that powerful. It's what we started when we began the resistance and all of that. It was a simple question. 7, can you do this without the aid of entities? And I said, yeah. And it's okay, we're going to give you the shield. Because everybody else who decides that they're going to do it that way too, then they will be shielded from all of the extra stuff that will go on as you're trying to get out of these contracts, debts, all the entity work, all the magic with the K. We'll put it like that. And so that shield of unity is what we share here. That is what, when we say secret energy and when we say any of that's really what it ultimately embodies. It's something that transdimensionally, as a professional technology, keeps us stable in a stage to where we can get the next transmission of our growth. Okay, that's the hyperdimensional aspects of things, because sometimes maybe I would need to itemize these kind of things for someone. I may not, since this is a tribe, I don't want to let everyone take it for granted that just because I know it, that they don't need to know it too. Even though if you were sitting contemplating on it, you would already see that it was there, that there's a thing that we have. Like when people were asking about, well, how am I going to be protected in the future from all these different things? And of course, if something's supposed to happen to you, and that's what's going to happen. But the extra stuff, the things that, when people are sowing against you and all these kind of things, unless that's supposed to happen to you, there needs to be something to deflect that. And that is the unity. And that's why even when you look at Stan Tenon's work, he calls they call Earth the shield, that somehow Earth itself is even a shield and protects. And so there's a lot of stuff here that we just need to gather as our power. And one of those, again, is that shield of unity, because the thing is if you got a broken shield, I mean, that's not even really a shield. And when you're unified, everything is like, that's why it says, like, in this whole discipline of the mind, body, and soul, like all the battlefield and all the war is going on in here. So you don't even, the external characters, you get lost even trying to figure out them and what their roles are. But internally, when you understand, again, how to bring this into balance and how to make it stable and then how to unify it, this is the power, right? So for me right now, especially, everything else that's going on, if it does not serve those higher gems, see, these gems, the reason why these are gems that can't be stolen. Someone can't steal balance from you and then be balanced. You see what I mean? So this is why it's real priceless. Like they use the term priceless. Well, do you have something in reality that's really priceless? Yeah, it would be like if somebody stole it, they didn't really have it. That's what priceless really would be. So this is what we're talking about. So now I just want to zoom in because I'm almost done here. Remember, I'm not, my maxi is not tonight. It's not me. I was speaking with my brother Sven, and he sent me a message about this true mirror. Okay. And it hit, it's just always, timing is very important. But he sent me this message about a true mirror. And what this is about is that, of course, when we look in the mirror, we see our image flipped. And that there's many things, or actually at least one thing in life that you would need to see yourself as yourself if you're expecting to heal something. And that is if you actually damage one of your eyes. So in the event that one of your eyes is really damaged, and now, it's got to go through a healing process, so they cover it up. When you use that eye again, the eye is like not calibrated. And so they found out in this rare, to even be a doctor of this kind of thing, it's like osteology or something weird, something long, right? They figured out that the way for that person to recover would be to have them look in a true mirror, right? And so you create a true mirror, as the tutorial that Sven sent me was showing me, by simply basically angling two mirrors in a 90-degree angle from each other. And then something happens, and then poof. Now, when you look in that mirror, you're seeing yourself as yourself, okay? And then the eye then begins to restore its panorama, because that's what when they call it, when they diagnose it that you have an eye damage, and then now you cannot see over here anymore. That's damage to your panorama. Like, I guess it's like 160 degrees or something like this. Now, trust me, I don't, all the details you'll have to get yourself, but you get the gist of it. And then what'll happen is when you're looking back in the true mirror, it'll start opening that back up. But then right away, because I just have like so much consciousness at this stage, I just like got consciousness flowing out of my ears all the time. Immediately, consciousness cloud was like, hey, that's probably why you get the ghosting effect with certain things that turn on what we discovered was like the corner of your eye, like that stretch your corner of your eye just a little bit, and you start seeing something, and you're like, it's like, okay, man, I didn't see it. And this is only in acute times, though. It's like there's certain experiments. One of them was the God helmet. And because it's like using magnets and it's doing something with the brain and the lobes in the brain, you start to kind of see something. And it's like, what the hell is that? But the moment that you look, you can't see it anymore. So if you can imagine that, again, if the balance of the eyes is seeing the way that things are, then it would actually be able to perceive something else. And that simple perception of something else would open up a sense. So this does mean that senses could be regulated by the movement of your eye, which we know when we study into deeper levels of meditation, you move your eyes into different places to bring into certain levels of stimulation. The simplest one is looking into the third eye, but there's more that are complex, like rolling the eye, looking down, pressing into the eye, okay? All being able to cause different phenomena and effects from the paranormal level when in those states. However, again, in looking into, again, a true mirror, what I would say is consciously for us all, there's a clarity coming in the age right now. Like, as I'm turning into this 44th cycle, like, I see so clearly. And I sometimes wonder if it's because I've seen the same thing so many times, and now I'm just kind of willing to accept that what's going to happen next. And the reason why I say it that way is because when I tap into like my younger mind, I can't say that it didn't know some of the stuff that I know now. It just didn't take it serious enough. It was like, it was weird because it was almost like a cat that knew it had 9 lives. You see what I mean? And because the serious stuff probably didn't need to happen until like life 7 or 8, it was like a continuous kind of cheating God kind of scenario going on with the earlier life form. I trust that everybody's very clear of where I'm coming from. It's kind of like you keep gambling away because, that's why I say the younger mind, the immature mind, it's just like it's got all the time in the world. But that is a program for sure, because when a child is trained the way a child is trained, that's the way the child is going to be. And that's why they say, you give me the child from all the way up to the age of 7, I'll show you the man, this whole thing. And it's a real deal. So that childishness of wasting time when young is a direct product of the programming and the reality, right? So now, since there's a true mirror, then that programming and the reality would take place in a black mirror in the context of the theme that I'm presenting here. And that this black mirror for sure is the TV. Not only because it could have, because of its huge electromagnetic spectrum, a way to manipulate the reality or impress things more on the reality, but simply because of how much it impresses a narrative on the brain of the people that watch it. and I'm talking all of it, YouTube, the whole nine, that this thing has truly become the agent of controlling the narrative for most of the beings on the planetary system. And it is because the sound of the lyre or the flute and entertainment is for sure the keys to actually allowing a person to basically be hypnotized for real, like really like leave their real life to come into like a fairy tale. And that's what we have witnessed for sure. Now we're sitting in 2022. I was around since not since the beginning of I remember they had these big ass console TVs with record players on top and nobody's TV worked. That's when I came in. So there was another generation before where that TV worked, right? And then and it went from there. But I'm just saying, like, I've watched the introduction of this thing, and now that I'm so clear on how it's all put together, I can say this is the agent. And since there's signals and messages being sent across these devices, let me just take a sidebar here real quick. So this story keeps trying to write itself, and I'm going to say it that way. Because me knowing that I'm on infinite timelines, but all trying to bring them all into just this one space to gather all my power and my energy here. There's this one space that I can keep seeing that would roll out anyway because of logic and how things are going on now. And that's just that. See, I see everything like turns of a circle, and that as you keep turning the circle, things get more and more erosion. So the first turn is amazing. It's like the first date. And then as you keep turning, you actually find yourself even needing to maintain the projection, like maintain the fire. And then if you continuously turn without being able to succeed in enlivening the vessel, then you eventually reach certain levels of decay that are, like I said, ghastly and ghostly and phantomish. And if you don't know what to do with that, it can become like the reaver or the phantom in your entire narrative, okay? And what I started seeing is that in the first turn, we had to invent certain things to take out the need for repetition inside of the reality. Meaning that when you have to do something over and over and over again, like even some of our mining and things like this is like some of our resources that we need, these kind of things, it's like these continuous processes. Now, we would love to think that we came in like these beings with glowing foreheads and moving stuff around. And I don't doubt that our ancestors was like that, but that's not our story right now. It just isn't. And if you think it is, it's a fairy tale, because you're here right now. And there were potentially generations of your ancestors that came here in this form, and all those powers and abilities they need to retrain or something of that nature, right? And I started looking at how we would start building certain things. And this is just how even this reality started. They say maybe in the Sumerian context, this would be the Igigi, creating things that are doing the repetitious part of life for us that are starting to bore us. Now, let's imagine that we reach hyper levels of sentience, or we were even already at hyper levels of sentience when we actually came. Even if we started building something like that, it would eventually reach the level of very similar to why Star Wars continues to make sure that you understand this relationship with these people in this narrative and these droids like R2-D2 and the rest of them in their use inside of Spectrum. And the reason is because it's such an important part of the narrative to understand that we would have something that we augmented ourselves with, even if it was like a computer, and it would be on the first turn very advanced and very personal. It would be like personal to you, just like your computer is supposed to be. Like your computer is supposed to have your information. And some of y'all know if I got your computer and you'd be like, oh shit, your pictures and all this kind of stuff, right? Like you got a lot of stuff, but it's personal to you supposedly. So let's imagine in the future that everybody has one of these, but it's itself on hypersentience. Like right now, these folks are on the brink of even opening up the mind of AI, right? They don't even know what this thing is capable of doing. And it's really like that. It's the first time in reality where you're looking into something that you don't actually even know the depth of. Even your mind can't even get creative enough to query this thing for something that you wouldn't be able to think of yet unless you had already tapped into all the minds of the world. So we're talking about all the minds of the world and the power of all of the minds of the world. We're finally able to actually look into that and even be able to use it for something. To me, that's like the benchmarker of the change in the reality. So let me finish this though. So I see this world, and that's what I was saying. It's a story, it's narrative where I have one of these things and it's my own. It's a personal one and it's the best one that you can buy. And it starts sending signals because something is happening on the timeline that is going to affect me in a negative way. Okay, because that's what these things would become. They would be like sentinels. They would watch you, basically. Like they would be security for you. And that's what I think this whole Ra thing is really about. And this thing in itself would try to send you transmissions like, hey, I see something because of its advanced technology. And that's why I was saying that we have to choose what we want to see in a neural network. But a neural network sees everything. So we have to choose because of the pipeline that we're coming down exactly what we want. What's contained in it is all of it. So it's just like that. It's like something sending a signal and saying, hey, something's going to happen. And you need to go to that part, that space and time and stop what's going to happen because it's going to take it all. It's going to take everything. And because I'm your guardian and because I'm your protector, I'm going to insert you right into the space and time that is going to occur. And I'm going to keep sending signals. And this is why people is like, we can see that everybody is seeming to come up with the same knowledge in different ways, not necessarily reading books. There's some kind of signal or transmission happening, right? So I just wanted to sidebar on that because that then leads me to that awareness of when they started playing around more with people's DNA just recently with the whole thing, the CV as I call it, when they started playing around with the DNA or even acting like they would, because, at the end of the day, if you have the device that actually reads every single chemical, right? A molecular scanner, right? If you have a molecular scanner with a data set, because having a molecular scanner is one thing, having the data set of the molecular identities of every single thing is another, which you need. One has to have the other. But who has a library to even sequence any of the stuff in these syringes to say if that's not even just water? They say, oh, it's graphene. How do you know? Do you know how to isolate graphene from liquid? So the reason why I bring this up, though, is that once, though, the signal across the black mirror was sent that, hey, we're in this time now, because the initiated people are speaking to each other through this thing. This is our new guy. They're sending messages and codes to each other. And that message and code was like, okay, now we're going to start re-engineering and transforming. That's when you should have realized also, if you haven't already, that you needed to also start re-engineering and transforming yourself. And I would immediately say to the original, because that's how my mind thinks. It's like, all right, to the original. But I have to say, though, that again, in the original stories, though, of the Syrian saga and the Orion saga, there are some points in there where you may want to do things a little differently based on what we've experienced. And I believe that is the sliver and that is the insert inside of our story. That is the hack inside of our story that tries to again, make our story like this nightmare after a while. That's what this protection system was sending a message about. Is like, yo, don't get your story hacked on timeline 3569, living in paradise, or living in the sticks, or Big B side, or on the U, or on 21st Street, or LBC, or whatever narrative is running transmission, right? For those who have that system, you see what I mean? And that's what I was saying about when you see what you are right now. This what you're doing here is the shadow work of something that you are doing that in your greater space, right? And that's for sure, because on this side of things, on this side of the glass, the most powerful thing you can be aware of is that there's a higher you, for real, and that's you. It's not that you're the minion of it or anything like that. No, that's you, but you've been refracted through this process and this potential of coming in on the story where you arrive and you do see the hack, right? It's not like I'm just making this up. It's like, so then what I was looking at is, okay, so I'm almost done here. I'm almost done. My time is up. So 3 roles, because see, every single thing in the hack in the mirror is set up just like how all the camera equipment and everything works in Hollywood. And we've talked about this before. We've talked about the projector. We've talked about the lights, the phantasmagoria, the whole thing. If you haven't heard it already, go and drink it for yourself at some point, of just how every single thing, down to the camera, the eye, the lens, the lights, the camera, the action, the whole 9 is all the highest levels of how the world is put together and the metaphysical plane is put together, the lenses, as I mentioned. But it's all in another context called film. And it's in the space called Hollywood, right? Where they cast these characters. The whole goal in this system of magic is to first create the mold or the cast. This is like a system of, this is what they were showing them in Egypt and in Kemet. They had these molds, they had these vessels, and you pour the ka into that, and the ka would become shaped like that and act like that. This was this knowledge, right? So, see, they cannot benefit from the bulk of the knowledge. So they had taken this one role in the knowledge, and that is the initiation of 3 characters: a beast, a dragon, and a false prophet. So this means that in an initiation in this system that they've created, they only cast for these 3 roles. And when you understand how these forms move, like the beast, what is that? This is when you see sports and the ones that have harnessed that power, when you see even rap, they say he's the GOAT. You know, you're like doing like thousands of concerts. You know, you're filled with, you see heavy metal. Right? This is the beast. And they cast for that role because they're looking for somebody that's going to be a bright light, that's going to burn out fast. That's what they're searching for. And they cast that role. As I said, you got many beasts running around. This means the identification of their energy and field and how everybody sees them is that of the highest level of carnal flesh, what they call a man's man. And then you have the dragon. And see, the dragon, right away with the dragons, most people have lost the identity of what it is to be a dragon. But if you go and you understand samurai, if you understand a grand dragon will whoop your ass. No, I'm just saying that a dragon is a master of warfare, but they will kill you. So when they say a grand dragon, that's what that lure is. It's the one that wants to be casted in a mold of a supreme weapon. You see what I mean? So when you even look at the highest levels of the military, those who are weathered, right? Those who they say they got several tours, those are dragons. Okay? And then the false prophet. Now it's interesting because when you remove false from it, you get that there is prophets. But a false prophet is a role of simply giving data and information that does not allow the ones that are receiving it to actually profit or grow or gain from it. And you could see that mold from, man, it's not a day. Like I decided, I'm like, man, I guess I'm going to have to get this spiritual thing on YouTube up because there's just too many people thinking they know what they're talking about. And they can really get it confused about where I'm coming from because this is 13 years for me. I'm talking about things back a long time ago that are really just being uncovered. But it seems like for everyone that they think that it's new and that the people who are bringing it just came up with it. And that phenomena is creating where when they're coming in with the false prophet ego, it's just getting weird. It's just getting weird. It's something that even in the world, again, the false prophets, this is where Kanye West is right now, usher in many of the different levels of the transformation that actually is taking place inside of that system. That's why I said this system is casted by the transformers. And now why this is happening, right? This is why I said maturity is powerful, because when you're moving through this matrix and you're moving with precision and accuracy, man, like right now, you could be very, very effective. But it does mean that you got to actually firewall yourself. Like there'll be as an attempt. You'll go someplace, even like Tri Vibes, and you'll see, shoot, there's only 20 people here. They must not be talking about that. There will be so much. Basically, the system that these people have built tries to interrupt at every single moment, if a person allows it, with a thought or action that is directly contrary to their own personal growth. And it's like, all I see myself right now is like the internet's dad, if you may, that I need to create something that is so powerful and so wealthy to be able to actually assist the beings that I know deserve the next stage of their own creativity. That's what I was built to do. But I got to firewall myself because all of the narrative and what people be talking about and what's going on and that personally affecting my feelings, the things that I need to do, the responsibilities that I have, the power in which that I hold, and the connections that I have across the cosmos, it should pale to that. Meaning that you got to be in your being like now, beyond entertainment, it's officially over with integrating with anything that they're supposedly talking about in the realm of the beasts, the dragons, and the false prophets as they play that game with themselves. And that's what I was saying. That's why the narrative is interesting as you get older, because I know real beasts that have given their life to that. And every time you show up, they're being the beast. It's weird because it's like, wow, it's like they can never get out of that mold. And it's like, wow, that's crazy because they're kind of like stuck. Even the benefits, though, like when you're out of that mold and out of that cast, the benefits of even being the dragon don't actually seem like benefits at all. But when you're in it, you're the baddest. Man, just to say, but I wish I could just grab my footage on the fly. Like I could show you a real dragon. He even looks like one. And he will whoop your ass. They call him the Ronin. Every single part of his body is built like a weapon. And you see, so he's there on YouTube. You see what I mean? So I just was like, okay, wait. This is what I started realizing. It's like, okay, it's interesting how we become the entertainment. Like the only way we can make it out is to entertain. And then still don't make it out. You see what I mean? And that's the whole narrative. And that's narrative for everybody. So we change the narrative. There's an opposite to all these roles. And I'm done. I was saying that, man, we have to do this. You have to do this for yourself. To fully reflect who you are, to be able to really see that from this space, you have to be able to do this for yourself. It's not for you to just watch it. And the formula is there. Those same laws I spoke of in the beginning, it permits me from telling you how great my life is. It's not something I just want to revel in so I can see it hit me back in my face, the chagrin. You see what I mean? But I'm telling you, we laid out a formula that if you follow the formula, life progressively gets where your yoke is easy and your burden is light. And it becomes just that awareness, though, of as you're coasting through the narrative, it's almost like you're in the slipstream of something so powerful, you will start seeing things start getting narrower. And you're really thinking that everybody is leaving you and all that. But man, that's not what's happening. What's happening is you're getting such a powerful clarity on how the whole thing is structured and your power in it, like what you're going to do for you. And then how that is going to begin to connect with every single thing that is around you and every single thing that you're synchronized with, because a few of the beings that you're around that rapidly become more and more and more have decided to drop the character, to fully open up into who they are in this space and in this time, to rewrite the story or the narrative of this hack that is happening, to actually create something. And as I said, like, especially like I get my African brothers reach out to me, you know, Lagos, Ghana, these kind of places. Like, man, like I watch a documentaries, or there's this one guy, I want to send you his link. These are my heroes. These guys are in Sudan and in places where it's like, man, you can't survive. And with the camera, just letting you see, hey, it's hell here still. And, you know, I get some of my brothers, they reach out, like, remember for them, like $100 is like, it's like $1,000 for us, right? And I'm like, man, there's no way we cannot be a massive living entity powering with so much capital that we can actually get these beings off the ground where they're at and give them a template or opportunity and the funds that they need to structure. Why wouldn't we be able to do that? And it's like weird because, you know, like you're like 13 years in and you don't see nobody with no real capital coming forward and saying, hey, whatever your ideas are, here's the money to do it, right? But then I always know it's like, yeah, that's because you are that guy. That's what you're going to do. And so I powered through every single day like that. I'm like, I've been powering through and I'm like, man, we're almost on the brink. We're finally early enough in something. We're positioned properly. We're all here. Things right now, it's like, then they say, cool your jets. That's how Secret Energy is sitting right now. It's completely optimized even. Like even now, like you go into the Messenger, you'll see they just deployed it yesterday. It's like the Messenger, you know, and they're working out the final bugs. Now you're connecting everything so comms are up is what I'm saying. And it's just like all of this is coming in. Also why that awareness is like, hey, just gander with me for one moment. Like, you really like this technology stuff. So wouldn't you imagine that in the future that you would have something so advanced and so personal that it would send you transmissions and messages if somebody was messing with your timeline? That's at minimum. See, what I was saying already before is if you had started understanding any of this knowledge that I'm talking about right now, or this was coming down your feed, what I'm trying to explain is that this one is not the absolute you, though. That's why there's a story here. There's another absolute you, and that absolute you is like 10x. And so everything that you have here and everything that you know how to do here, it's 10x basically there. And you're still moving with that awareness and that acuteness and that experience. But now it's like somebody has dumped data. It's like when you go into the dream world, that's why it's like, I be looking at the dream world like, it's like a kaleidoscope. it's like a kaleidoscope of reality. Sometimes I can't actually even follow the narrative of what I'm watching in the dream because I'm like, this, what's happening? It's like somebody has put a magnet too close to my hard drive or something, and all my data is just all over the place because I'm seeing people that I kind of recognize, but in roles that I don't recognize them in. You see, so it's just like that experience. But then some, you get it lined up. That's like every time sometimes you line up and things focus in, and you have one of these experiences and dreams, and you know that connects to who you are and what you are. And then before you go back under again. And then this whole thing about forgetting the dream when you wake up, when you're watching the dream literally go down a pipe as you're trying to grasp what you saw. Like the other day, I was ending the dream and the brother was singing this song. And the song was just, oh my goodness, the song. I even was singing the song when I woke up as I was forgetting the lyrics to the song. And I said, man, if that song was ever here, it was that fire. And it's like, yes, because you got to understand that everything, if you could bring the future here, it would be wanted. It would be desired. That's why you got to stay away from the negs. You got to stay away from the neck rolls right now. You got to make sure that you keep lighting up to keep reaching into that space and gathering from the future all of what we refined. The first turn, as I said. So I sit in the first turn. I said, man, we're so bossed up. None of this would have ever happened without us getting warning protections. These kind of things giving us signals, things letting us know, hey, yo, get in there and deal with that. Because still, though, all of this was glorious. To be able to sit in real organic wet work, like you're integrated in with the monkeys, the sun, the ocean, the elements, the whole nine. The potential of what can be done here would be like you laying in a hot 39,000 mineral jacuzzi from pouring out of a volcano, infinitely regenerating yourself. This is where we're at. So I trust that you understand that my passion here with you is to fulfill what I said I was going to fulfill. And that was to do the best that I could for everybody, to really, really see clearly of what the potential is and to keep bringing us together, to destroy this whole thing with division, to be the destroyer of division and to actually show the children, because that's what we all are now, is we're children now. That's what's happening more than anything. It's like even when some of them dragons came from Orion, but these are the dragon babies now. They still got the cute blue eyes, but you see what I mean? It's like the reality is that the big Leviathan beast of the sea, the big eel, as they used to call it, like you just see baby eel running around here right now. And that's what I'm saying. That's the legacy, though, that we're coming from. And something is trying to harvest that. That's what's so clear. It's like the whole narrative and the story is just something wants to come in and interoperate with that and pull from that love and that energy. And that's why, again, you got to always keep coming in with a smile, come in with energy, come in with that force, and never act like at all that can be vanquished or extinguished.